My wife vanished every penny from our account while I was lying unconscious in a hospital bed. Her message simply read, "I earned this after all I sacrificed for you." I didn't argue, just sent a thumbs up emoji. The next morning, after getting discharged, I had no intention of returning home. My name's Logan Reed, 45 years old and 22 years hauling cargo in a semi-truck. It wasn't a dream job, but it paid steady and kept Dana wrapped in luxuries she never really noticed. For weeks, my chest felt tight, but I brushed it off as regular stress. Long hauls, junk food, and cheap gas station coffee. Then the pain hit like a hammer outside Omaha. The pain got so bad, I had to pull over, called 911 myself. They airlifted me to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Turned out I wasn't having a panic attack. My heart was shutting down. I remember the doctor's face before everything went black. "We're losing him," she said. Not exactly what you want to hear right before you pass out 2 days later. Woke up with tubes in my arms and a stent in my heart. The nurse told me I'd flatlined twice, said, "I was lucky I didn't feel lucky when I checked my phone. There was only one message from Dana. We'd been married 15 years, no kids, just a mortgage in Sioux Falls, and a lot of quiet dinners." When I was home between hauls, the message had a screenshot of our joint account balance, $0 below it. She wrote, "I deserve this after everything I've done for you. $61,438.72, my emergency fund, my truck maintenance account, my retirement cushion, all gone. I should have felt something rage maybe instead. I just felt tired. In a way, sleep couldn't fix. I sent her a thumbs up emoji. Nothing else. When the doctor came in, he told me I needed to rest. Avoid stress. No driving for at least 6 weeks. He asked if someone was picking me up tomorrow. Yeah, I lied that night. I made a call to my brother Jeff. He lived on the other side of town, hadn't spoken to him in months. Not because we were fighting. We just lived different lives, need a favor. I said, "Name it," he answered without hesitation. "Need a place to crash for a few days, and I need you not to tell Dana." There was a pause. "She doesn't know you're alive." "Oh, she knows," I said. "She just doesn't know I'm not coming home." I met Dana at a gas station outside Cheyenne. She was stuck with a flat tire, and I was the guy who stopped to help. Back then, she looked at me like I was some kind of hero for knowing how to use a jack. Funny how that works. Things that impress people at first just become expected. Later on, we got married 6 months after that, quick, but not reckless. I was 30, she was 27. Old enough to know better, young enough to believe in something she never liked, that I was gone 3 weeks out of 4. But the money was good, and she liked what it bought. I'd call every night from whatever state I was passing through. Sometimes the conversations lasted an hour as the years went on. They got shorter. 5 minutes of updates, then just checking in last couple years. It was mostly texts. Made it to Nashville. All good here, looking back. There were signs. She stopped asking when I'd be home. Started taking trips with friends I'd never met. But I trusted her. That's what marriage is, right? Trust. My brother Jeff helped me into his guest room. He's a construction foreman, works locally, divorced twice. Knows something about the ways people can disappoint you. You should eat something. He said, I wasn't hungry. I was thinking about the house I'd bought, about the refinancing. I'd done 3 months earlier when rates dropped. Dinah had said she was too busy to come to the signing, so I handled it myself. Put it only in my name since my credit score was better. She never even asked to see the paperwork. There was also the medical power of attorney I'd set up last year after my buddy Tim had his stroke, and his girlfriend couldn't make decisions for him. I got worried. My niece, Megan, Jeff's daughter, helped me with it. Law student, smart kid. She made sure everything was in order. Jeff came back into the room with a quiet sigh, tossed a blanket on the couch, and sat beside me. You planning to tell her where you are? He asked. I shook my head. Not yet. You sure she's not going to come looking? She won't, I said flatly. He studied me for a second, then handed me a sandwich. She took everything? I nodded. What are you going to do? I took a bite of the sandwich. Didn't taste like anything. I'm going to get some rest doctor's orders, but that night I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, remembering all the little moments where Dana had seemed distant. Checking her phone under the table, changing passwords, moving money between accounts for better interest rates. I'd been blind, but not anymore. On my third day at Jeff's place, I got a text from our neighbour. Harold, haven't seen you around everything. Okay, Dana's got some guy over, thought you should. No, I sat with that for a long time, didn't respond. Just let it sink in. Later that afternoon, I drove with Jeff to the bank. Not our regular branch where Dana and I were known, but the main office downtown asked to speak with a fraud specialist, showed them the text message with the screenshot explained. I'd been hospitalized unconscious, that the withdrawals happened without my knowledge or consent. The woman behind the desk kept her face neutral, professional, but I could see it in her eyes. Pity, maybe a little anger on my behalf. Mr. Reed, we can start a fraud investigation, but given that it's a joint account and your wife has equal access, it may be difficult too. I understand, I cut in, but I'd like to try anyway. She nodded, started typing on her computer. We'll need records from the hospital confirming your stay, particularly documentation of when you were unconscious or incapacitated. Not a problem, and you should know if this becomes a criminal matter. The police will get involved. I looked at her. I'm aware on the way back to Jeff's. We stopped for gas. I stayed in the car while he pumped through the windshield. I watched a father with 2 kids buying ice cream from a convenience store. Normal life going on all around me. Want anything? Jeff asked. I shook my head back at his place. I made 3 phone calls, first to my dispatcher, telling him I needed extended medical leave. Second, to the credit union, where I kept a small business account for my independent contracting jobs. Third, to a lawyer friend of Jeff's. I need to know where I stand. I explained with the house, with the accounts, with everything the lawyer Blake agreed to meet the next day. I hung up and pulled out my laptop, logged into accounts Dana didn't know existed, checked the status of investments she'd never asked about, not because I was hiding anything from her, but because she'd never shown interest in the boring parts of our finances while I was doing that. Another text came through from Dana this time. Where are you? Your truck isn't at the depot. Did they tell you? I came by. I didn't answer. Cameron, this is ridiculous. You can't just disappear. We need to talk about this. I put the phone down. Jeff looked over from the kitchen. She reaching out. Yeah, you going to respond? I closed my laptop. Not yet that night, I took a walk around Jeff's neighborhood. It was a clear night, stars visible even with the city lights for the first time since the hospital. My chest didn't hurt, not physically anyway. I realized something. During that walk, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just done. And with that came clarity. Dana hadn't just taken my money. She'd given me my freedom a week after I was discharged. I finally went home. Middle of the day, when I knew Dana would be at her office job, used my key, walked in, like I'd just come back from another haul. The house smelled different cologne that wasn't mine. Empty wine bottles in the recycling bin. 2 wine glasses in the dishwasher. I packed some clothes, my important papers, and the small lockbox from the closet where I kept my birth certificate and passport. As I was walking out, I noticed the framed photo from our wedding day was missing from the hallway table back at Jeff's. I met with Blake the lawyer. We sat at the kitchen table with papers spread out between us. The house situation is interesting. He said, reviewing the refinancing documents, since you refinanced solely in your name, with that medical clause, and given your recent cardiac event, you have a strong case for sole possession. What about the money she took? Blake frowned. That's trickier. Joint accounts typically mean joint ownership. But he tapped a finger on the bank statements. The fact that she cleared it out while you were medically incapacitated could constitute financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult, especially since you have documentation that these were primarily your earnings. I nodded, and if I want a divorce, South Dakota is an equitable distribution state. Given the circumstances, I think we can make a compelling case for an arrangement in your favor. He gathered the papers. I'll draft some initial documents. In the meantime, don't contact her. Don't respond. If she reaches out, everything through me. Now the next day, Dana showed up at Jeff's house. I was alone. Jeff at work. I heard her car pull up, but didn't look out the window. The doorbell rang 3 times before she started knocking. I know you're in there, Logan. Your truck is parked down the street. Her voice was muffled through the door. You can't just hide. We need to talk about this. I sat perfectly still in the living room, like a kid playing hide-and. Seek eventually, the knocking stopped. I thought she'd left until my phone buzzed. I'm sorry about the money. I was angry. You've been distant for months. I thought you were cheating. I found out about the house refinancing and panicked. We can work this out. Please talk to me. It was the first time she'd ever accused me of cheating. Projection. Probably, I turned the phone face down. Without replying, the next day, Blake called with news Dana contacted me. He said she's hired Patricia Wells as her attorney. Patricia Wells, one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in the state, known for going after everything: houses, retirement accounts, future earnings. What does that mean for us? I asked. It means she's not playing around. Wells is already claiming that your abandonment after the hospitalization constitutes desertion. She's painting you as unstable, saying you disappeared without explanation and are refusing communication. I let out a long breath. So what now? Now we get ahead of this. I filed for an emergency hearing regarding the funds. She withdrew. Judge Harmon is presiding. He takes a very dim view of taking advantage of medical situations after hanging up. I stared at the wall for a long time. Then I made another call to my niece, Megan. I needed her help with something important and time-sensitive that night. I parked a few blocks away from the house and watched from a distance. Her curtains were drawn, but the porch light was on, and I spotted shadows moving inside. A second car, dark blue, maybe a Lexus, was parked behind hers. I didn't go closer, just turned around and drove back. In the driveway, I got a text from a number I didn't know. This is Patricia Wells. I represent Dana Reed. Any further surveillance of my client will be documented as harassment. All communication must go through proper legal channels. They were watching me. I was watching them. And now the gloves were off. 2 weeks after that first meeting with Blake, we had our day in court emergency. Hearing regarding the withdrawn funds, Dana was there with Patricia Wells. Both in sharp suits. I wore the only tie I owned, the one I kept in my truck for unexpected funerals on the road. Judge Harmon was an older man, with white hair and reading glasses perched on the end of his nose. He reviewed the filings without expression, occasionally looking up at Dana, then at me, Mrs. Wells. He finally said, "Your client withdrew the entirety of the joint accounts while Mr. Reed was hospitalized for a life-threatening cardiac event. Is that correct? Well, stood Your Honor, my client had every right to access those joint funds. Furthermore, Mr. Reed had recently refinanced their marital home solely in his name, without Mrs. Reed's knowledge, which we contend was the first act of financial deception." The judge removed his glasses. "I'm not asking about the house right now. Counselor, I'm asking about the timing of the withdrawal. Was your client aware that Mr. Reed was in the hospital? When she took the money, Dana leaned over and whispered something to Wells. Wells cleared her throat. "Yes, Your Honor, but my client was under extreme emotional distress, believing her marriage was ending. She acted to protect herself financially." The judge put his glasses back on, while unconscious from a heart attack. Seems an unlikely time for Mr. Reed to end his marriage. He shuffled some papers. "I'm ordering the funds frozen pending further proceedings. Neither party may access this money until ownership is determined in the divorce settlement." It wasn't a complete win, but it stopped Dana from spending anymore. As we left the courtroom, Dana tried to approach me. Wells held her back with a hand on her arm, but not before Dana said, "Logan, please, there's so much you don't understand." I walked past without looking at her outside. Blake was satisfied. This is just the beginning. Now we start discovery, the part where all the cards get laid on the table. A week later, Blake called me to his office when I arrived. He had a folder waiting. "We've got something," he said, sliding it across the desk. Inside was a bank statement from an account I didn't recognize. Dana's name was on it, The balance $127,345.66. Where did this come from? I asked. Your niece found it? Megan's internship at the credit union downtown gave her some insights. This account was opened 18 months ago. Regular deposits always just under $10,000, just under the reporting threshold. Classic sign of hiding money. There's more? Blake said, the deposits align with your long-haul schedule when you're gone. Money goes in. I sat back. She's been planning this for a year and a half. Blake shook his head. I don't think she was planning to leave you, Logan. I think she was preparing in case you left her. Why would I leave her? I was working myself to death to provide for us. That's when Blake slid over another piece of paper. A credit card statement with a hotel charge from a place in Minneapolis date. 3 months ago, I'd been in Seattle that week. The name on the reservation was Harold Jensen. Harold, our neighbor, the one who texted me about the guy at our house. Blake's face was grim. We think Harold has been involved with Dana for some time. He was creating a false trail to make you suspicious while they were together. The betrayal wasn't just Dana. It was coordinated, planned. Harold playing concerned neighbor while sleeping with my wife Dana, draining our accounts while I was fighting for my life. I stood up. What's our next move? Blake smiled for the first time that day. That's up to you. But if I were in your shoes, I'd make sure they both regret ever thinking they could get away with this. I spent the next month living at Jeff's recovering physically. While Blake built our case, we had a strategy now document everything. Gather evidence of Dana and Harold's relationship, prove the financial deception my niece Megan was invaluable. Her position at the credit union gave us insight into financial patterns we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Nothing illegal, just connecting dots that were already in plain sight. The account has another person with access. She told me one evening, not a joint owner, but an authorized user, Harold. I guessed she nodded. And there's something else. They've started moving money, smaller amounts to different accounts. They know we're onto them. I stared out the window. They're liquidating, getting ready to run that night. I called Blake. We need to move faster. I agree, but we need to be careful if we tip our hand too soon. They'll disappear with everything I finished. So what do we do? Blake was quiet for a moment. We need leverage, something that makes them think twice about running the next day. I drove to our house when I knew Dana would be at work. I didn't go inside. Instead, I walked the property line taking photos with my phone. The new shed Harold had helped build last summer, the fancy landscaping that had mysteriously appeared while I was on a 3-week haul to California, improvements paid for, with my money likely installed by Harold. Increasing the property value of the home that was now solely in my name. I sent the photos to Blake with a simple message documented 2 days later. Dana's lawyer called Blake with an unexpected offer. Dana would return 50% of the withdrawn funds in exchange for 50% equity in the house. They're testing us, Blake said when he called to tell me, seeing if we'll settle cheap. What do we tell them? Nothing yet, let them sweat. Meanwhile, I made another move. I contacted my trucking company's HR department, explained my situation, asked about the disability insurance I'd been paying into for 20 years. You're entitled to 60% of your salary for up to 12 months. The HR representative explained, given your cardiac event and the doctor's restrictions, you easily qualify. I filed the paperwork that day. Another source of income that Dana didn't know about wouldn't be included in any settlement discussions. Yet the next week, I had Jeff drive me past our house again. This time, I noticed something new. A for sale sign on Harold's lawn. He's cutting and running. Jeff said. I nodded. Call Megan an hour later. Megan confirmed our suspicion. Harold had cleared out his accounts 2 days earlier. Nearly $90,000 withdrawn in cashier's checks. I called Blake immediately. We need to act now. Harold's selling his house. Dana might be planning to go with him. Blake didn't hesitate. I'll file for an emergency injunction first thing tomorrow. Freezing all assets, preventing property sales without court approval. The next morning, I woke to a text from Dana. We need to talk, just you and me. No lawyers. I showed it to Jeff. They're desperate, he said. I nodded. Good. I forwarded the text to Blake, who replied, "Don't respond. Injunction hearing is at 2 p.m. At 1:30, I was walking into the courthouse when I spotted Dana and Harold together in the parking lot arguing. They didn't see me. I took out my phone and recorded them from a distance. 30 seconds of evidence showing their relationship. Something they'd been careful to hide from legal proceedings inside. Blake was waiting. I showed him the video, perfect timing. He said, "Judge Harmon is already in a mood today." I straightened my tie. Then let's not keep him. Waiting in Judge Harmon's chambers was smaller than the courtroom. Just the judge, the two lawyers, Dana and me. Harold wasn't allowed in. He wasn't party to the divorce. The video of them together played on the judge's computer. No sound, but their body language spoke volumes. Judge Harmon then turned and asked, "Ms. Wells, would you care to explain why your client has been declaring under oath that she has no relationship with this neighbor when video evidence clearly shows otherwise?" Wells looked rattled, her voice faltering. "Your Honor, the nature of their relationship isn't relevant to the financial matters at hand." The judge's eyes narrowed. It is when financial fraud is being alleged. He then turned to Dana. "Mrs. Reed, are you planning to leave the state with Mr. Jensen?" Dana's face drained of color. I don't..." The judge interrupted. "Let me rephrase. The court has evidence that you and Mr. Jensen have been moving substantial sums of money, that Mr. Jensen is selling his property, and that you withdrew funds from joint accounts while your husband was incapacitated. This suggests a pattern of deception and intent to flee." He looked at both lawyers. "I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all assets belonging to both Dana Reed and Harold Jensen. Neither may leave the county without court permission." Additionally, he turned to me, given Mr. Reed's medical condition and the evidence of financial exploitation during his incapacity. "I'm granting temporary exclusive use of the marital home to Mr. Reed." Dana made a small choked sound. "Your Honor," Wells began, but the judge held up a hand. "The exploitation of a medically vulnerable spouse is something this court takes very seriously. Counselor, you're lucky I'm not recommending criminal charges at this time." Blake gathered his papers, trying not to look too satisfied as we left Dana. Caught my eye for the first time, I saw fear there. Not of me. Of consequences. 3 months after the hospital, I moved back into our house. My house now. The divorce was finalized faster than anyone expected. Dana didn't fight after the injunction hearing. Harold had disappeared, leaving her to face everything alone. In the end, the judge awarded me the house, my truck, and 80% of our savings. Dana got her car and the remaining 20%. The secret account was split 50-50, but only after she paid my legal fees from her share. I never spoke to her directly again. Everything through lawyers. The last I heard, she'd moved to Minneapolis, starting over, I guess. 6 months later, I sold the house. Too many memories. Bought a smaller place closer to Jeff and Megan. Used some of the money to help Megan with law school. She's going to make a hell of an attorney someday. I don't drive long haul anymore. My heart can't take the stress. The doctor says it's better for me to find other work. Now, I'm dispatching. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. Home every night, and that's a peace I never had before. Some days, people ask if I'm angry about what happened. I'm not. Not anymore. You can't control what others do, only how you respond. Dana thought she was taking everything from me, but she didn't. She made me realize my own strength. That day in the hospital, she thought she was breaking me, but instead, she pushed me to find the strength I didn't know I had. Last week, while cleaning out some old boxes, I found our wedding album. I thought about throwing it away, but I didn't. I just put it back. It's part of my journey now, not the end of it. Just another chapter. The heart attack nearly killed me. The betrayal nearly broke me. But here I am, changed, maybe stronger. There are lessons you learn the hard way. Some people you lose for reasons you'll never understand, but sometimes the life you rebuild is better than the one you lost.